everyone, and we are live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
Hey, and we're back. Who knew?
Who knew? Good morning. Good day.
Good morning. How you doing?
Yeah, no, it's a nice spring day. Can't complain at that at all. We'll just go right into it right away here. We have amazing artists, and I always have amazing artists. We know that, but
Well, this one's really more amazing than the others, so that's
well, we're not. We had a great artist, a great photographer last week, and but this week we're back to actual painter, but Elfrida Schragen. I try to excuse me. I try to encapsulate what it is in an artist that makes it unique. Excuse me. And it's sometimes hard to put your finger on what an artist does that's unique to somebody else. So what differentiates you from another artist? Everybody's got their own journey, and I think that's what's of interest to people. Now, Elfrida has an amazing ability to paint not only portraits but cityscapes and florals and some unique imagery. I think there's going to be. I'll call it unique imagery because it's a little.
You mean the nudes? I'm gonna blow this. There's some nudes coming that are just magnificent on the flower. I like that one. I like all her stuff. That was one of my.
Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
I'm sorry. She's laughing. I can see her in the green room. She's laughing, going, "That American's just a pervert." I get it. So, but no, her stuff is absolutely. It's captivating and gorgeous. So I think the fans are going to actually enjoy.
Let's bring her in before we tell everything.
Keep talking about her like she's not here. So welcome to the show, my dear. How are you?
Goodness.
She's like, well, oh, wait a minute. I have to. You're fine. Everything is good. Not to worry.
Perfect. La, la, la.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, it looks great.
I'm going to let you and Paul have a nice 45 minutes to an hour. I'll come back at the end. Like I said, your work is absolutely phenomenal. So have a great interview, and I'll come back and ask you my questions at the end, and enjoy yourself. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, good day to you. Yeah. We have, and as I mentioned, we have that trying to figure out the difference between artists, and because we have artist after artist in our shows, and how your journey is different than others, and everybody has their own unique way of starting and where they are today. And I look at your diverse type of subject matter, and I am interested to dig in a little deeper into why you paint what you paint, and where you're going from here. Like, there's always the journey, right? The surprise. So can you bring us kind of up to speed as to where you started and where we are now, and then we'll start with some imagery here shortly after that.
Well, my father was an artist, so I lived in an artist's home. He actually made a living, but it was during a time when they did a lot of commercial art, and paintings were illustrations. They didn't use photographs in magazines, so he did a lot of that, and he did a lot of commercial work. But discussions were often about color and composition. And I was a little girl whose daddy got his shirts with a cardboard in them. In those days, when you got your shirts, the cardboard came in them. So every morning when he put on a fresh shirt, he'd give me the cardboard. I would draw a picture for Daddy, and when he came home, he would look at it. I adored him, so I was, really into it. When I was about 12, maybe 11 or 12, I did a painting, and he was talking to me about it, and then he started painting on it to correct something.
Oh, yeah.
It disturbed me deeply because I just wanted to please Daddy. I was not focused on making great art, and it felt an intrusion. So I kind of backed off at that point. I still always sketched and drew and that sort of thing as I grew. And then I went, I worked with emotionally disturbed children, and then went on to regular teaching. And during that time, all little sketches here and there. And then when I kind of hit my life questioning, I thought, oh, because I was working with emotionally disturbed children in a psychiatric hospital, I thought, well, maybe I could become an art therapist. And so they were just starting an art program in Victoria at that time, an art therapist program. And the woman that was starting it said, oh, yeah, you'd be great with your background and everything, but I want you to take a couple of drawing courses and painting courses, 2 courses. And I did, and I had such a good time. I thought, I don't want to do this for therapy. I just want to do it for me. So that's kind of where I took off.
Yeah.
And that would probably be in my mid 40s, maybe a little bit sooner, early.
So do you think artists have to be a little selfish about things for themselves?
Good question. Definitely, as a woman who, takes on kids and family and everybody else to please, yeah, I think as a woman that I've had to say quite clearly, this is something I need to do and take the time, make the time and take the time. And
So
that's not easy, yeah?
does that feel like you're stealing time? Or is
No,
it
no,
just,
it felt more like I was growing myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
because some people have that guilt thing a little bit about if I'm taking family time away from the kids and everybody, that just for my time, right?
Oh,
How do you find my time?
how do you define my? I didn't have that. I think when I started painting again, my husband and I were living on a farm we bought with another couple, so we had chickens and pigs, and I had 2 kids, had a full-time job, and actually everybody was pretty supportive. Um, my kids would come in and draw when I was there, and they were interested in what I was doing, but no, I didn't feel any guilt. I felt supported by my family.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think so. In the so-called education that you've had, they were just from like just little small sessionals that you do.
Yeah.
Um,
I discovered not immediately. Immediately when I started going back to painting it, I was painting in acrylics, and I took little courses here and there. I went to Emily Carr for a week. We didn't have lots of courses on the computer like we do now, but I went from acrylic painting to sculpting. And so I would take little courses and get books and read and stuff just to figure out what I was doing. Because the first lot I did, I blew up in the kiln. I didn't know what I was doing. I bought my kids some clay for Christmas and they weren't using it. So I started modeling all these lovely angels and things. And I took it to school and blew it up in the kiln. So
and everybody else's stuff with it.
but there wasn't anybody else. I just put it on for myself. So
Oh,
anyway, yeah. Yeah. So what I discovered fairly soon was that if I I took a course that was long, and even when I was face to face with the instructor, like they were there present, that my sense of competitiveness and my need to please kind of took over, and I would too much get into the head and the thinking of the instructor and lose myself. And it would take a year for me to kind of get back to being in touch with what's important to me.
yeah,
So I really like, in terms of learning, I enjoy the computer because I can turn it off. I can look at someone's artwork, or I can look at their instruction, and I can decide to do it or not. And it really makes no difference to the instructor. They aren't around me, so it's not an interpersonal thing.
yeah. No, I think a lot of us have that possible feeling of people looking over our shoulders, I think it's probably hindered more students, young students. When they're kids, they just do what they like, and it's beautiful pieces, and then they slowly get that taken away from them through
Yeah.
people helping them draw their drawing and telling them what colors a banana is and all the little things that go on that the teacher thinks they're helping, but unfortunately, a lot of our instruction art is a secondary class. He is normally teaching you English or history or something. And by the way, you have to do an art class. So
Yeah. It's
teachers, I'm gonna get Stephen to start up our first image here, and
okay.
we get a bit of. There we go.
Well, that's Bonnie Henry.
Okay.
And I don't know if Bonnie Henry means anything to anybody outside of BC, but she was very prominent, and I don't know exactly her title, but prominent and in the papers a lot during COVID. She was quite firm and clear about what should happen.
Okay. So
And
she was the health advisor during COVID.
she might have been the minister of, or the assistant minister or something like that of health. And
Okay.
so I was, you want me to tell you about the program that I was doing?
Sure. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the second program that I would call the program series that I put together for a place in Victoria called Our Place, and that is for people who are experiencing homelessness and are on the streets. It's gotten quite, but initially I did a series, and I think you are going to show one of those pictures first,
I think
and
it's the
then
next.
yeah, that's a man that the first program I did was when Our Place wasn't built. It was in the process of getting funding for it. And so the minister that was kind of heading that drive up, I went to him and said, how about I could paint some people from the street with their permission and then see if we can sell those paintings and maybe give the money to Our Place, which we did. And a couple of my friends were so excited about it, they went out and did all the cold calling and hard work to sell the paintings. And we did gain a lot of money, I think about $24,000 from that. So this is a particular fellow that I did. And it's always interesting when you're painting people on the street, if you take the time to find out their story of the day. I mean, the story could change the next day, but they could tell you about your background. And this man, when I took I would go out and meet them, and they would sign a waiver. I'd tell them what I was doing, and I'd pay them a $10 model fee, and they would tell me their stories. I would ask all about their stories, and I'd take a ton of photographs, and then put something together, a compilation. And
Right.
this particular gentleman, he was very pleased with himself because he hadn't been drinking for 2 weeks, and he had a place to stay with Sally Ann, and he was pretty proud of himself. He was not a tall man. He was kind of like a leprechaun. He had a leprechaun feel. Well, then later it became that project that I put together was probably the one time in my life when I was most in the paper, that people did a lot of write-ups about what I was doing. And
Right.
we made a big poster because we had a show in the city hall of all the paintings that I'd done. And on the poster, we had this painting. And also the TV stations came and made a little, 2-minute thing of me interviewing people, etc. So when we had the show, we made a big poster, and he was on the poster.
Yeah.
And
Very nice.
big part,
Very nice. He has that little twinkle in his eyes. There's still.
he does. And so when the TV station was taking pictures, he was around me, and he had, he was drinking again. He was quite drunk, really, and he was kind of pawing me and saying, "Oh, she's lovely," and I just, "Oh, I'd marry her. She's just lovely." And I turned to him and I said, "Have you seen the posters of you?" "Oh, yeah," he said, "I'm plastered all over the city." Anyway,
everybody's famous for 15 minutes, right? Is that
that's right.
with
That's right.
him? Well, it's a gorgeous painting. I like it. It's got that twinkle in his eyes, and he's happy, and like you see, he's in a good place. I mean, not knowing that initially it was a homeless person to start with, but um, you know, it's just it's a very pleasing and pleasant portrait. I mean, previously we have this one, which is you can see her portrait, but it's a little smaller, of course. But
Well, this is the second series. So after we did that series, a couple years passed, and I really actually enjoyed doing the series. So I thought to myself that there's a lot of women of my age who had put a lot of energy into Victoria and the surrounds, and from all different professions and walks of life. And we were all kind of graying into the past. And I thought, well, how about I do a series of women before they disappear? Who are out there doing things, and
right,
and we made a ton more money with that one because each subject would pump themselves and their families bought the painting.
yeah,
So one of the people who was more active, Bonnie's a little younger than my generation, but um, there were a lot of well-known people that I painted, and I actually did two of her. This was one I think she bought, and the second one I did a company bought. So it was really lovely. I got to meet some incredibly intelligent, highly activating, they were into the environment, they were into dancing, and they were just
yeah.
lively, well-known people at that time.
Well, we'll get into some of that in a minute. We'll go back to here and go to our next one. Here, lovely. So a real switch here now. You're going from portraiture to
Uh,
some natural items and some horses. Are horses kind of a love that you like? They,
well, when I was young, my dad, one of his things that he was known for was painting horse portraits, and he'd do like for the jockey club, he'd do the Queen's Plate winner and stuff. And people gave us horses that weren't quite up to scratch for competitive competition. So I was given a pony, and my dad was given a horse, and I got heavily into horses when I was younger. I was, pony clubbing, and I was with the hunt club, and we hunted and everything. So when I started painting, it came pretty natural to want to get the horses. And yeah, this is fairly early. I think, yeah, I'd just gotten into oil, I think, when I did this painting.
right. So, so did you do a series of? This is the only picture we've got of horses in this show here, but they were showing. But were
Yeah,
they part of a subject matter that you were really fond of at the time, like
not
doing?
necessarily. No, I think I was probably, I don't think I plein air painted that, but I was struck by some horses in a field or something. I'm
Yeah,
always drawn to horses now, and I always kind of look at their conformation and what they're like, and it just seemed very what's the word, peaceful and country like, and
mm.
I didn't um I don't think I did any more horses. Well, it's kind of hard when your dad's a horse portrait drawer. You don't. Mine feels like sloppy painting next to his work.
Well, he was making a living from it, I guess, as well. But I just learned with portraits that people people really say, well, that might be a white horse, but that's not my white horse. It becomes a thing where they really look at it and say, that's not my horse because it has a personality.
Because
Some
and
artists, some
my
artists have, yeah, some
gives
artists
him
have that ability.
completely different. Yeah.
They have the ability to capture that nuance of that horse. The little bit that we've talked about that previously on other ones as well. But this is just a night. This feels just like you driving on the highway, and there's you look over to the side, and there's, like you said, there's that peaceful scene of the horses just
Uh,
having
yeah.
grazing. So was this like early days of starting painting plein air or outdoors?
I think this was I think it was when I would be around 2000, around the year 2000.
Okay.
And I just moved from sculpting into painting. And oh no, it would be a little later because actually I started doing a lot of pastel. So I worked with pastel for quite a while. I don't know if I sent you a picture of that, but
Uh,
then, and this would be moving into oil. This is oil paint. So
yeah.
probably, right.
So we talked about this is what's unique about Victoria is you can have it's a seaport, and boy, you can have the scale of the boats relative to the city. You know, it's just like, oh my goodness, right? And it's just the way the harbor is built
Yeah.
in Victoria. It's
Okay.
and the
What's
shipyards.
Yeah, what struck me about this particular painting was here you cross over a bridge and you're still in central Victoria, and there's new buildings going up all over the place, and then smack in the middle, here are these two large, colorful ships in dry dock. And I mean, there is water there, but you can't really see it. Um,
Right.
and the color and the size right into the city was kind of amazing. They have that's called Point Hope, and they have a yearly open house. And myself and some of the people that are in Artists in Canada that you have, we paint there for that day and do plein air painting, and it's
Yeah.
quite so it's kind
Yeah.
of
What I really like about it is the ships are really popping off the page. I mean, the city is grayed back, you know,
right.
and so is this part of what you like? Is the growth of a city important to you? Like you see how it's changing, adjusting.
I think what's more important is that my painting, I like to reflect what's on people's mind. Like when I did those portraits of the homeless people, homelessness was a huge issue in Victoria at the time. And right now, when you talk to people, my friends at my age, they're all talking about, oh my gosh, I can't get around the city. The traffic's so terrible. They're building all these buildings all over the place. And so I wanted to, you'll see in one of the other paintings you've got of mine, I wanted to paint something that represents something now that will be referred to historically. Like, okay, look what happened back then, kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah. No, it's a different kind of construction. You know, ship buildings really different than building buildings, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
just think there's this sprawl that is squeezing the ship aspects, the living on the water. We tend to put pressure on our resources that built us as a country, and the coast it's a fishing coast and it's a shipping port. You receive goods and you ship goods out from that port, and now this urban sprawl that's kind of squeezing it out, and I see you get more and more congested as well. The buildings get taller, and it's
When
not
the
as quaint.
traffic is dreadful because they haven't done anything with the streets. And not only that, they're actually making the streets smaller because they're putting in bike lanes. So,
Yeah, that's a problem everywhere. Yeah,
and it's a little bit, I understand the need for bikes. I'm a biker or was a biker myself, but they didn't have things ready. They didn't have enough public transportation because a lot of people who live in Victoria are retired. And there's no way they're going to be riding their bikes.
yeah.
They're
Well, they're taking the bus system or smaller cars. Exactly.
but the bus system isn't enough right now. We need a transportation thing. Yeah.
Well,
So
with
wait,
the
sorry.
electric bikes now, you can move around, and they've got some three-wheeled electric bikes as well for stability. So possibly that's a whole other issue.
That's a whole
Uh,
nother.
yeah.
Maybe one day.
So this is one of the other pictures of the city scene, the congestion.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we can. I think a lot of cities are feeling exactly what Victoria's feeling. I think Victoria's nice in a way, and that you have two seasons in there. One's wet and one's a little dry. you, you don't get a lot of white stuff.
No, well,
occasionally.
yeah, and the summer is often quite dry. We're almost, I forget what we're labeled as. Is it's not quite um, a desert, but very low amount of water. And yet in the winter, it's gray a lot, so you feel like it must be raining a lot. And we still don't
Yeah,
get that much water. It's
yeah,
just gray.
yeah. Well, when you live on the island, you get what the island gives you. It's just the way it is. I guess it also depends on what part of the island you live on. You know,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I like the sense of the busyness, and I like the design of the shapes around it. And sticking in the cars, I'm not a person that went around and learned how to draw cars, but sticking in the cars actually fit when I was doing it. I
I don't think,
needed,
yeah, I don't think that's as important, the specific cars. What I really like is the walk down the sidewalk.
yeah.
Well, it's just the heaviness of the trees that are over your head while you're walking on that shadowed walk, like the pathway. Um,
I,
I don't know.
I, I was
It's
going to
got,
say, I also like to be able to get in a mark or two that implies there's people walking there without being too detailed. So when I do it successfully, I'm happy.
so is universality important to you? This could be any city, or does it need to be Victoria per se?
I, I can't remember what I named it. Yeah, any city. It could be any city, but I think I named it maybe Fort Street or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it is on Fort Street.
Yeah, we've
You
had
know,
another artist that painted some city things, and she painted Calgary, and it looked very similar to this, but she had her own little way of painting it. But the thing is, it's kind of it's nice to see the different visions of people and how they interpret their city that they've been in for a long time. Like they're like old friends, a little bit. I see the city I'm in changing dramatically from the time it's doubled in population since I've moved to Saskatoon, for instance. But
but
it's looks
Paul, where do you live?
in Saskatoon.
In Saskatoon.
Yeah. So this is very much like one of our Second Avenue. It could be Second Avenue, where we are as well. It's just a main street, not and it's changing. Again, the old buildings coming down, being renovated, moved around quite a bit. But it has a really nice sense of light. It's the focus is really on the city. It's yet the clouds and the trees kind of resemble each other. They belong in the same space. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see. They got that tattered edge about them, the trees, and so do the clouds do as well. Like I said, it's got a nice warm feeling day. Yeah, and we get into this day here.
So
So
I
this is
did.
really the construction aspect, drawing machines and the feeling of, um, I guess the nastiness of growth. I mean, you've got to put up with the discomfort for something that might be pleasant. That's how I sort of see this. But
Well, I that's right. And I did do a series. I did 3 paintings of, I called them my machine paintings because I like the big heavy duty machines. Uh, they're kind of fun to paint,
yeah,
and trying to break down and decide what you want to put up in terms of what's being built is a challenge too.
yeah. And I look at this, it feels surreal to me. And I'll tell you where. It feels like there's this pallet wood fence been put up in front of the city. So there's this a feeling of segregation. Like this feels like the construction's in the foreground, there's a building in the background, and there's this fence, which is part of that parking garage, but it actually feels like um, a big palette. Like it's just super surreal, which is really cool because it really gets across a feeling of a barrier in the city, which is what you're dealing with. You're dealing whether it be homelessness or whether it's other things. There are barriers in all of our cities. There's the good side of town and the bad side of town. There's the busy side of the town and there's the lazy side of town. Like there's the green side and the not so green side. Like there's always in every city, and this has that. I don't know why. It just has that feeling of, and it's not a straight line. It's got a 90-degree edge on it, right? It goes around the corner. Yet it's
Yeah.
in the central part of the painting that is dominant. And I just really get across this feeling that it's like the power in that, and maybe it's important. Is it important to you that a painting has more than one feeling or what it's trying to say to other people?
You know, it's interesting to try to talk about one's own paintings. I mean, I'm just doing it, and I don't know. I mean, I want people to be drawn to it, and I don't mind if there's controversy. And I don't think ahead about something like what you just asked me. So I'm just into my image, playing around with my image and fooling around. And is no, it's not always important that they see it the way I see it. It's important that it affects them enough that they think about it or they feel about it that some way. Like I know you're going to show a picture later, and I can't tell you where that came from or why, but it sure had a lot of effect on people, which is what ultimately I want. I mean, I want response. I want people to note it.
I think sometimes as an artist, especially you work in a series, there there's things in the back of your mind that you automatically put in, but you don't know why. They feel
Yeah.
right, and you just you keep pushing them. Like this shape of this palette shape is in your other previous works, and some of it may come from the gridding on buildings, windows, and balconies.
Yeah.
Um, but does it come from psychologically from, say, your homeless series that you worked on? Is there things that are in the background in your mind that you just paint and things
Okay.
you hear?
For the homelessness series, for sure, when I talk to people, I often put in the background of the paintings, not the one you show, but in the background, I often put something or things that represent what they've talked to me about. Like there's
Yeah.
one particular painting I did say of a man who is quite schizophrenic. So I felt the schizophrenia, what's that feel like? And I got this sense of circles all around him with various people chattering because he talked about people chattering in his head. So yeah, that then I do that consciously.
Your phone is buzzing. Somebody's phone is buzzing.
And this was this is what we had what we called in Victoria the Blue Bridge, which
Okay.
went over which went over the Gorgeway from one side of Victoria to the another, over the bridge. But Victoria's on either side, and then it was taken down, and this bridge was put in it. So this is called the New Blue Bridge, even though it's not blue. I mean, it looks blue there, but that's just really shadow.
Yeah.
Uh,
Why
yeah.
the blue bridge? Why did they name it the Blue Bridge?
Well, the original one was blue, and then so
Okay.
people would know what they were talking about.
The
They
new
called
blue, yeah.
it.
The new Blue Bridge is not blue. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
I
love that.
Yeah. The architecture is so different than the cityscape and behind in the background, right? You just have this surreal feeling of, I guess, these rounded shapes that are held together with W truss in the middle, right, for reinforcement.
There's
Yeah.
a bunch of, yeah, it's not in the painting, but there's a bunch of sculptures over to the right hand side there. So
Hmm.
it has become a little gathering spot. People coming off the cruise ships kind of go down to see it. It's a kind of unique bridge, and
Yeah.
it does. I think it opens. Yeah, I think it lifts up. I've never been around when it lifts up, but I think it torques
Oh, does
up.
it? Okay. So then you want to just, yeah.
Yeah,
That would be neat to see. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
very unique bridge. It's almost looks like it's not finished yet. Like the shapes don't go all the way to the other side, right?
yeah. But the other thing to point out in this painting and in the previous painting, for a while I was captivated by cranes,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I sent that picture to you about the cranes.
Probably not. No, I don't probably have
That's
that.
because I eventually after many of my paintings, if they were cityscapes, had cranes in them because that's our city. That's our city line, our skyline.
A lot of them.
And then I visited back a family member back home, and in Ontario, and it's a sister who is also an incredibly wonderful painter, and she had done this series of cranes of birds. So too bad I couldn't
Maybe another time.
send that picture
Yeah.
because it's called Cranium Crisis, and so I've combined the flying cranes with the building cranes, and a lot of little naked people being bullied about by all of them, and it's called Cranium Crisis.
It's funny how we as artists get those ideas, and we're looking for analogies and things that can convey our feelings and something that's going on in our cities. I think there is a lot of cities with cranes in them right now. There's a lot of building going on everywhere, and they become part of the skyline of the next condo or whatever they're building, right? And I guess part of that urban sprawl, they're
Yeah,
wanting to move it up rather than out. And Victoria's, sorry, you're trapped by water, and you can only go out so far, right? The mountains are there, and yeah,
yeah, I know. Okay.
that's okay.
And
We can go back to that one. We can go back to that one. You have another thought on this
oh,
one?
I was going to talk about the one that came up.
Okay, we'll talk about this one.
So we are very fortunate in Victoria. We have a lot of walking places around the golf course. We have Swan Lake, and they're all like 10 minutes from the center of the city. And
Yeah.
this is a place called Rithit's Bog. And as you come in off the highway from the ferries, you can see this bog. And I've walked around it so many times. And every time I walk around, every season it changes wildly. By the end of the summer, there won't be water there.
Okay.
It's always interesting, and it's filled with birds and ducks. And so I just wanted to capture it. And then the local community there used that painting to go on their, it's kind of like a yearly newsletter. So that was on the front of it.
Nice. It's
Yeah.
nice when it's nice when an artist gets recognized for things in their area like that. When you can actually have something reproduced and put in a public space, people say, "Oh, I recognize that space. I've walked
Yes.
around it a lot of times," and
It
get a
was,
little bit of notoriety that Elfrida
yeah,
did this piece, right? So it's kind of a
it was bought by somebody who walks around there all the time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you become part of the reason for the walk. Maybe people like to see what you're up to.
perhaps.
This light changes again here. Yeah, this one feels very 17th century. It's
I,
your other person in you from many thousands, hundreds of years ago. Yeah.
very limited palette.
Yeah, it's the
It's
minimal.
it's the Napanee River in Ontario.
Is
That,
it? So
and
you do
I,
get out. So you do get away from Victoria once in a while.
yes, I was born and raised in Ontario,
Okay.
and so I go back to visit family. I'm actually going in a week or two, but this I often get. I'm an early riser, so I went and was walking and was just struck by the entire red that was absorbed, orangey red that was everywhere. I mean, the greens were hardly green. There was either dark in shadow or they were red like this.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's got a very nice feeling when you can keep colors of the same within 2 or 3 colors together, not the rainbow of color.
No,
Some of your most powerful paintings are minimalist palettes. You
yeah,
know, it's a really nice way to. I
and
mean,
it usually works too if you minimize your palette because it's integrated without you having to work up being it integrated. It is integrated because you've only maybe got 3 colors in there, and
that's
you're
right.
making other colors with them, so it makes for integration.
Yeah. But it creates not only a harmonious painting, but it also makes you choose the right value. Value becomes really important.
Yeah.
and
Yep.
hue. So rather than, you know, this one has depth, this one still has depth to it. And I think that's really good. Easy. It's sort of like working with pencil in black and white, trying to figure out how to make one dark and one light, right? How to push it back and bring it forward.
I've been doing a lot of sketching recently with charcoal, and it's really fun getting the various degrees of value out of charcoal. You know, using
Yeah,
your fingers and yeah.
yeah. And then bang, we got these flowers. Whew. Victorians, they're known for flowers, so you got some great. I
They
put
are.
these two images together because we have a few more images to go through, and I just
Oh,
thought we'll put these two bouquets together here of some flower. You want to
yeah.
speak to, like, is that part of your
What
love is
it,
flowers?
what it is when I feel like painting and I can't get out and I don't have anything in my repertoire of things that turn me on that day. If I've got a bouquet in the house, I'll pull it in my studio, and because I like the challenge of working with that massive colors, or there's something about it that turns me, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, it can be a tangle of color if you're not careful. It's
Yeah,
just it is a bit of a game trying to sort what comes forward, what goes back, and like you said, you're dealing with all the stems. Does that stem line up with that blossom? And you gotta you gotta line stuff up, when you plan them a little bit, because people's eyes start connecting things, right? Oh, well, that
so
stem, yeah,
have a gloss vase too.
yeah,
That's really something working with those stems that are in water and behind glass. So
yeah.
the reflections and what happens with it. Yeah.
But what I really like about them is that these are not meant to be highly photographed pieces, like photographically representational pieces. There's still a response in the floral, like in what you're painting. So it's not, is there a glimmer on the glass that should be there? There could have been more highlights, but or less highlights. It's like the decisions you make while you go along the way and say, what is the most important thing to talk about? Is it the vase? Is it to make it look like it's really glass, like clear and I can see through it? Or is it really a bit about the bouquet? Because if you're focused on everything, your painting becomes somewhat flat. If
Uh-huh.
everything is sharp, you don't understand what you're looking at for the
That's,
viewer. But
yeah.
I think some of that is automatic when you start painting. Like it's you as an artist decide, oh, it needs this, needs that. Don't do this, and move on, right? But
Mhm.
it's good on you that you're able to do that because a lot of people can't. They would spend too much time on the background and try to make more of it than it is, right? You say, well, the one on the left is, it's a busy background, but it doesn't bother you from the
It,
central image.
that's right. Your eyes still go to the
Yeah,
colors and the
yeah,
flowers.
yeah. The other one is a little bit more complementary, right? Your blossoms and
Yeah.
against the green background. So
Yeah.
we'll leave it at that. I think they're pleasant. They're pleasant little things. This one feels like very 1800s. Like you want to have the women with the white dresses and their tea party on the blanket on the lawn, and
Right.
a Manet type painting going on here with
This
déjeuner
was
déjeuner sur l'herbe. You need that kind of. Yeah.
this was definitely plein air, and it was our local park, our Beacon Hill Park.
Okay.
I was with a plein air group. The group I'm involved with is called the Alfrescos, and you don't pay anything. You just meet up, and sometimes there's 2 people, and sometimes there's 40 people. Whatever people feel like coming up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was again. It was that time of year. There was a massive color, and also the wonderful shapes on the plants.
Yes. Well, it's a real challenge when you sit and you have to sort color out. Like it's a really good challenge, especially in the foreground, trying to figure out the depth of those greens, the one that goes way back and one it's brighter and one comes forward, and just that sorting out. It's a real mind game when you're plein air painting, right?
And you've got maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours I
Yeah.
actually like that. I like that speed because you don't get too fussy. You get a pattern of the way you approach it. For instance, I would might do just a quick line with my brush, do a quick line drawing so that I've got everything in the perspective that I want.
Right.
And then usually almost always pre-paint my canvas a color, and it decides. Like in this case, I probably painted it with red because I was going to be using so much green.
Right.
So then I quickly, get in the darks and then start working up from the darks, get comfortable with the darks, and then start working up and a little bit lighter and thinner. I mean, thicker and thicker because everything's still wet if it's oil paint. So
Yeah. So you paint in oils when you do your plein air?
yeah,
Yeah. So is this about an 8 by 10 panel or is it bigger?
it might be 11 by 14. That sort of is a common one I use.
That's
Occasionally,
still a yeah. It's still a manageable size, and it still holds
yeah.
a lot of work to do, to manage that space. So how do you sit down and you um, organize your page? Because I'm sure the garden goes farther right and farther
Oh,
left.
huge. Well, sometimes I have one of those little square things and I just move it around until I find what I want. And sometimes I design in my head what I want and then grab from what's around me various things. Like if you look on the right hand side, putting that big kind of banana leaf thing at the background, I wanted that to be there and because I wanted the colors to bounce off it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was there, but I put it there.
Yeah,
So,
it looks like it belongs there. It is,
yeah,
otherwise, it's a big dark hole. It might as well have some texture. It's a very textural painting, but very organized. It has a. I'm not confused by it, which is
right.
one.
And
It still feels pleasant of the day, a nice light, and it's got a really nice feeling. But
that's a beautiful park if you ever come out. It's right in the center of town. It's a lovely park.
I've
Nice.
actually been to Beacon Hill. I think we went to Emily Carr's house as well.
Yeah, it's close
Walked
by.
that way. Yeah, it's close by. I think we have been there. I don't think it was the springtime when we were there, like last time, about this time of year.
Mm,
Yeah, not as much out blooming as maybe later in the spring.
for
But
sure. Right now in Victoria is rhododendron time, and the rhodos in some places, like I live in a condo that has a huge garden around it, and the rhodos are so magnificent that if I painted them, people would say that's not real.
yeah,
That's just made up. Can't be.
I remember seeing a magnolia tree for the first time in the spring, and I thought, "Oh my goodness!" I just couldn't believe it. I see a magnolia tree. Yeah,
Or without leaves. Oh, there's my.
there's your leaf painting. So this is one day. This is when Stephen was talking about.
Right. It's called
Can
the
you,
plein.
can you can you tell me where this is coming from? Because this is really different than the other pieces we've seen from your work.
Actually, I gave you a taste of a whole bunch. It's not so different. Well, one of the things that I do is I regularly, when I can fit it in, I go to life drawing,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's a drop in. There's probably 4 or 5 around town, and I know when they are, and depending on my time. So I these positions and the poses of the women are all from life drawing. So I would have done the life drawing in charcoal, and then I put them on the leaf.
yeah,
Why did I do that? Well, it fit in with that sense of flowering. I think it's like women coming into their own in a certain way, and also the vulnerability of their nakedness. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, what else? I don't know what else to say.
yeah.
But
I don't know. It just conjures up these questions, and I can see how the context that you talked about is. You can see that, and you're saying it's almost like the Cabbage Patch thing, right? It's like where where do babies come from? It's the Cabbage
yeah,
Patch. The old days of that. The
well,
story.
sometimes I did go through a series recently of just trying to capture some of the unusual images I have in my head, and they have emotional and psychological meaning to me, but they wouldn't to other people. I call it process art. So I think when I did, this was one of those that I did at that time.
Yeah. Do you think it's important for people to do this knowing that they may not sell, but do it for themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's important if it gives them a boost. I mean, I'm of an age now where I love to sell, of course. It's very validating, but I don't have that necessarily in mind when I'm painting. I'm retired, so I paint what gives me a bit of a hit,
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you get down to a lot of people, like some artists saying, well, you should paint yourself at some point. You can paint yourself nude at some point. And you go, a lot of people, Alex Colville did that, later in life, like before he passed away almost, him and his wife down
Yeah,
by the refrigerator at night, or he did one after he had his open heart surgery, him standing up, how the body has changed in
sure.
him, and how it became important that he do something, understanding what was going on with his own body, and lifestyle.
Maybe it is that. Maybe it's helping you come to acceptance with an aging body.
Maybe.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you a little bit about this. I did a study of this first, and I put it on Facebook, and they took it off.
They took it off.
They said, and I thought, oh, well, it's the nudity. But no, when I read what they said, it was something about a copyright. I have no idea what they're talking about. So
Yeah.
because I didn't understand it, I contested it, but they never get back to. I
Yeah.
didn't understand it, so I just put it back up, and they never took it off again.
Yeah, copyright. I'm really concerned with copyright lately because with AI, there's not a lot of. I don't know where copyright's going to go down the toilet the way things are going. Um, Artificial intelligence is destroying anything that is just stealing stuff from everywhere and anywhere, and
Yeah.
creating imagery that is false imagery or whatever. But it's it can be used for good and for bad. But I think it's really harmful for artists that work hard at what they do and find that their work has been copied at some point and reused and repositioned and create a new piece of art from it. We sort of used to do that where you'd go to an art gallery and you'd sit down and copy a painting,
Right.
but you'd actually do it by hand and eye, and you could be sued in the day for doing some of those things if you
Now
use
they
some.
trace it now.
Yeah.
It's too difficult to trace.
So I don't know where it's going to go, but I love this piece because it's so different than your other pieces. But it gets your mind working a little
Yeah.
bit. People
I
saying,
like- You know,
"Well,
I've
you
had some wonderful comments on Facebook from people, and how they felt about. Well, I don't know if I sent you the picture of the people going through the woods, like pieces of wood. Is that
coming up, coming up.
coming up? Okay.
Don't give it away.
Oh, okay.
Here
That
they
one.
are."
Boy, I had such incredible response on Facebook about this painting.
Okay.
A lot of Americans actually, and they said that's what it feels like in America right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, we'll see. Maybe we use something like that. It has there is a real. This one has a social feeling, a strong, strong social feeling, and it
Yeah.
can be a lot of different things here, from family to homelessness to just all these barriers that are put in our place, and they're just tacked in. They're not a really structured fence. They're just
Oh,
quickly
yeah.
in
It's sort of
place.
there's an expression that I'm a widow now, but my husband used to say, "Our job is to get out of the coffin of prejudice into which we're born," and I that has always stuck with me. So this could be you fighting your own prejudices within yourself, but it could also be dealing with society's throwing at you and how they're limiting you, and that it's not clear. It's not like a nice straight fence. It's all over the place, and you're allowed little bits of escape, and all that there. But people see what they want to see, and I want them to. I want them to invest their own feelings into it.
And this one does evoke a lot of those things because I mean, people looking, they can see through, but they really can't get through. They can see where they want to go or respond to it. Their hands can go through, but their physical bodies have to stay behind the barrier.
Yeah,
Um, there's a lot of that going on, the wall in Mexico and such, and we have
sure.
the borders that we have created to separate countries. And but these things can be as much in your city, this kind of thing. This is a psychological thing as well. So it has a lot of different meanings that it can be conveyed to. I see your work changing and moving in, I think, is that important to you? Like how do you do more social work like this now than say the pretty plein air painting, or do you enjoy this kind of commentary?
I find this much more difficult. It's much plein air painting or painting from resources of photographs and stuff for me is much, I mean, it's a challenge, but it's easier.
Yeah.
Whereas this is coming out of my head. And so just like the flowering, the idea came out of my head. So everything I put there, I have to find some support in my head or do it from what I feel, or I find another photograph to refer to it. And, just getting the heads in the different positions, it might look easy, but for me, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to do something out of my head like that.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is for everybody. It's easier to paint what's in front of you
Yeah.
than paint what you remember and paint
Uh,
what you how do you paint what you remember? Um, you know, where do you start? Do you do like sketches of this prior to doing these?
do I do sketches sometimes beforehand? You mean? Sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Or
not always.
just to understand the structures. I mean, how you might place the lumber. How do you need four heads or five heads? Do you, how
Right.
many hands are showing? Like, do you,
I,
like I'm
I,
saying, do you have sketches that are preliminary to this?
I have done, but sometimes I just mess around on the canvas till it's where I want it to be. I'm not, I wouldn't want someone to do one of those. You see them online, a painting where they show you from start to finish. You wouldn't want to see my work like that. I mean, I have done those with plein air, but not this kind of stuff because I'll put something in and take it out and then do something and then redo it. And, it's messy. It's messy. But I think the result isn't messy. But when I'm
No.
working on it, it's a mess.
Well, you work in the manner that you feel comfortable with working, right? So if you feel that you can just at least you get started. I think that's the main thing. Just get
Yeah,
started. Get the
yeah,
paint wet and get going.
going.
So we're going to end on this one. This is a beautiful portrait. I love her.
Isn't
This is
that lovely? And she was
yeah.
such a lovely person too. So this was the third project I did for the homeless center. And I went from doing the elder women to doing the young up and coming activists in the city.
Okay.
Um, and I cannot, it was a long before COVID and stuff. So I can't actually remember what activist thing she was into, but living in Victoria. And I loved working with her dark skin. It
Mhm.
demands a whole different palette.
It
And
does.
yeah,
But it really sparks with her blouse. Like I love the whites in that.
yeah,
Uh, they sparkle. They resemble the Manet Monet's types
mm,
of paintings of the women in the gardens and things. And um, you know, I think it feels she's very pleasant feeling. She's got a nice smile and she's in the warm light. She wants to be there. And
yeah,
so it's it's a lovely, lovely. But you said, the skin tones is very. It's nice to be able to paint those and be able to go in. Some people are fortunate enough to have that in their life drawing classes sessions to be able to have a closed model, and
yeah,
people have diversity to paint. because our it is like you said, it's different than just painting white flesh. No, it's really different.
One thing I will say, Paul, is that when I did these were 3 series that I did. And so I think I did about 35 of these young people. And once I get working on a series like that, it's a kind of heaven, because how often do you get models? And so I had all these models, and I was pumping out a portrait every 2 weeks. And you just get better and better. You get more and more confident. So
Right.
the last ones I did, which are these young people, I think are my best portraits. And they didn't make that much money because the young people didn't know how to promote themselves, and they're shy, So, so some of them are still hanging around. We sold quite a number, and I'm actually now trying to locate these young people, see if I can give them their portraits. This one's gorgeous, and it's just
Well,
hanging down in my storage room.
yeah. Well,
But
it may require you put them together in a group of some situation and have an office or somebody,
I
pay.
did put them in a show. I had the ones that were left. I put them in a show in the library,
Mm,
series of the young people. But what a treat it is to have so many models like that. And I just, sometimes you get up in the morning, you're thinking, what do I do today? I've got this I have to do, but what do I do for fun today? Well, when I was doing those every day, I painted every day, and I just got better and better. And I
yeah.
haven't done it now for, I don't know, 4 years maybe. I don't think I could paint as well now as I did then.
Mm. It takes practice. No, excellent. And a very, it was quick that we went through a wide variety of your work over a very wide variety of time as well. Not just done in 2 years. This is a larger body of work, and we can maybe talk about the cranes next time. We'll just do something like, there he is, there he is, standing
I
on.
know the killjoy is back. Relax, calm down. So like I said, beautiful stuff. Love it all. Um, Other than the flowers with the women, the boats were and the horses right up there. So beautiful, beautiful. So here's my question: if somebody wants to buy some of your work, what is it? What do you charge to sell it to them?
Yeah, I use a formula.
Okay,
And
I do
then I
too.
don't.
Free. So
Yeah,
free is good. And then past that, what do you use? So
that's the freedom. Well, yes, I do give away things, but I usually use a formula of adding the width and the height, and then doing
okay,
it. When I started, I did it times 10. Now I do it times 21. So
okay.
over the years, I add a little bit here and there.
So
So
basically, what will your work start at, and what's the high and the low and the high?
probably the highest I've ever charged was 2,000.
Okay,
When I was doing those portraits, they all were 1,000, but that money
okay,
didn't go to that. All went to our place
right, right.
um, for all of those. Um, yeah, I painted a portrait of one of our famous uh, people who set up a big golf course hundreds of years ago, and so they got it in the golf club. So they paid me quite a bit more.
Gotcha.
That's good.
So if
I
somebody wants to buy it,
started 450 maybe.
okay. So 450 to 2,000 would be the range for your artwork.
Yeah.
There you go, and that's
Very,
Canadian,
very
everybody.
reasonable.
So it's like $4 US and $3 in euro. So you're fine. So
That's right.
you just have to pay a lot for shipping. So there you go. Well, your work is absolutely beautiful. Her links are below. So you can see anytime you want to see her work. If you'd like to buy something and can't figure out how to get a hold of her, get a hold of us. We'll put you in touch and we go from there. And thank you for your time. Come back and see us when you got whatever the new thing is you're doing, and
Okay.
show us what you're doing. And we'd love to
Mhm.
see you. And thank you for everybody for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And that's it, kids. We're done for the day. Have a
Okay.
wonderful Thursday, everybody. Cheers.
Bye, and thank you very much for your time, both of you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay.